there. Hi. I know you clicked on the thumbnail because of this thing, but trust me, you're not ready for this yet. We need to build up to it. Your head will explode if we keep this on screen without warming up first. All right? Oh wait, this won't do. New year, new background. So, all of this is happening because of a single comment left on my last weird controller video. No, not one whining about my nail polish, but one that's actually useful, informative, and written by someone with self-esteem. It mentioned a Logitech controller with a throttle slider on it, and searching for that item led me down several rabbit holes, and friends, let me tell you, I've done some exploring. Now, Logitech itself will get its whole own video sometime in the near future, but today's episode of Bob Can't Stop Collecting Weird Controllers for Some Reason is focused on some prime specimens put on this earth by a company some of you may recognize called Saitek. Saitek is a currently semi-defunct brand coincidentally owned by Logitech, and before that Mad Catz, mostly known for flight sticks, some of which are good. Their X52 design is basically immortalized in Elite Dangerous, which is one of my favorite games. They also made this hilarious and overpriced farm sim rig. Saitek was founded in Switzerland all the way back in the late 1970s to make electronic chess games. Then in the 90s they added PC game peripherals to their repertoire, which of course would include gamepads of various types, and that's exactly what we're going to look at today. If you'll recall from my video looking at Microsoft Sidewinder controllers, this is from the era before Microsoft, ironically, made controllers boring by standardizing them with X input and the Xbox 360 controller design. And my friends, I don't know if anyone got weirder with it than Saitek. I'm not going to be doing this in order of release, but in order of weirdness. Like I said, we need to build towards this monstrosity. We're going to start very simple. This is the Saitek P120. You can tell it's a Saitek because it says Saitek, 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 and Saitek. It was released in 97? 98 maybe? It's hard to pin down some of these. It's a pretty conventional, simple gamepad. You have 4 face buttons, you have a round and of course extremely mushy D-pad, but it's got some nice surprises too, like 2 shoulder buttons labeled X and Y, and a very comfortable ergonomic design. It's a game port controller, so I don't have the ability to test it out right now. But also there's not much more to it, is there? It's extremely comfortable in the hand. I really like these grooved shoulder buttons and these extra grooves in the handles. It really fits quite nicely. You may wonder, what the hell is this? This used to hold, my specimen didn't come with it, a little joystick you could plug into the D-pad to make it, I don't know, feel like a joystick, I guess. This is something that a number of controllers from this era did, and I don't know why. I've seen pictures of a 6-button variant also. Editor Bob, do your thing. Thank you. So that's the P120. Pretty basic, but a decent controller, I think, for the time, for simple 2D games. I really like the size of these face buttons. They feel really nice, and the shoulder buttons. I could see myself using this if I was somehow stuck in 1998. So yeah, decent construction, nice ergonomics, really like the face buttons and the shoulder buttons. Wish I had the joystick, but I literally paid €1 for this in combination with one of the other controllers I'm going to show off, so I'm not going to complain. This is the Saitek FPS P990 dual analog, bit of a mouthful. You can start to see the pattern in the naming convention here, P plus a number, presumably the P stands for pad. This is the latest released model I'm going to be showing off today, I think. It's from somewhere in the early 2000s, and you can tell it's approaching normal controller territory. We got 2 sticks, we've got 6 face buttons, inexplicably a white and black button like the original Xbox, but there's some other weird things about it too. There's an FPS button. I don't know what that does. It's USB, so if you plug it into a computer today, it'll just register as another button, as does the analog button, which I also don't know why that was necessary. This is not a PlayStation controller. The D-pad is in a very complex and annoying shape, and it feels okay, I guess, 5 out of 10 on the D-pad scale. It's got 4 regular shoulder buttons that are not analog, and the other weird thing about it I find is, if you notice, square gates on the joysticks. And this kind of goes to show again how Saitek made flight sticks, and they were used to doing things in a flight stick way, I suppose, and some of that would leak into their gamepad design. This almost seems like they're trying to teach people who have never played a first-person shooter with a controller before how to do that. What is the FPS button for? Why does the second stick say mouse look and have a little targeting thingy? These questions continue. It feels solid in the hand. It's a little light, but not too cheap feeling. There is like this soft touch coating on the handles, which is not the kind that turns into melty goop, but it is getting a little matte and powdery with age. I think if it had analog triggers, this might be a decent overall USB controller for the PC. And that's the P990. Okay, so this is the one that kind of started it all. I was literally scrolling around listings looking for that mythical Logitech controller with the throttle on it, and I saw a picture of this, and it just stood out to me. This is the start of the rabbit hole. It looks normal for a microsecond, and then it looks extremely abnormal. This is the Saitek P750 from the year 2000, 2002, I don't know. Let's take a closer look. We have 4 face buttons with the letter labels in like the weirdest position ever, A, B, C, D. We have another analog button, but also a digital button, so it is not a toggle, I guess. We have a shift button, similar to the Microsoft Sidewinders, and wow, how conventional, a start button. We have the roundest D-pad ever made. That feels terrible. We have 4 regular ass shoulder buttons, actually labeled R1 and L1 and R2 and L2. We have a single joystick. We'll come back to you later. It has a little nuclear symbol on it because that's cool and radical and hardcore or something. First really weird thing, we have a scroll wheel. Very similar to the Sidewinder Freestyle Pro, except that one was free scrolling like a mouse wheel, whereas this one is quite limited and just functions as a throttle. And then you have this. What is this? Is it some kind of rotary dial? Is it some kind of tiny little analog joystick? This, my friends, is nothing. It is nothing. It's just plastic. It doesn't do anything, and I don't understand why it exists. And that would be the weirdest thing about the Saitek P750 if it weren't for this. What's this? What's going on here? This is an axis lock, a mechanical axis lock for the joystick. Oh, this is too freeing. This is too freeing, being able to go on both axes. No, press this button, very awkwardly rotate it, and now I can only go left and right. I can still kind of go up and down, but just only a little bit. But it might be because it's old. And then if I turn it the other way, now I can only go up and down and still a little bit left and right. And again, here we go. This is that weird flight stick mentality, maybe? Somebody engineered this whole system of pressing down this button and locking the axes, doing all of that, and I don't really understand why. I can only assume that with that and the throttle, that there's just this legacy still of the flight stick that lives in these gamepads. Now there's several variants of this bad boy also. There's the P1500, double the quality because it adds rumble. There's a P2000, which adds tilt controls. That's it. That's all those add as far as I can tell. There is also a PX5000, which is at least several times better than 750 and adds an X, which makes it super cool. It uses a similar look, but is made for the PS2, so it finally adds a second stick, but removes the scroll wheel and adds an entire LCD screen in the middle, presumably for programmable macros and stuff that were a selling point that I've never heard of anyone using ever. Ergonomics-wise, this is the worst one so far because it kind of has the shape of the original PlayStation controllers until the PS4, which I really hate because it's so concave and your fingers don't have anywhere to go. And besides that, what am I supposed to do with this? I want to do something with this. I can't do anything with this. And that just bothers me irrationally. But this is one that deserves me actually playing something with it for all of you. And I thought, hey, nuclear symbol. I like torturing myself for entertainment. How about Duke Nukem Forever? But there's no second stick, so it's not really great for first-person shooters. And then I thought, well, play something older. Play Duke Nukem 3D. Not realizing in that moment that just because Duke 3D is old doesn't mean it wouldn't be better with a second stick, right? So what Duke Nukem game could I play with this thing? What console has only a single analog stick? So this is Duke Nukem Critical Mass, unreleased for the PlayStation Portable. And I should maybe plug the controller in before I start playing. Interesting to note, it's GamePort, but also USB. Thus why I can show it off. So I can only play this game because of the hard work of game preservationists who found unreleased betas of it. Also, it's an unreleased beta, and I think I loaded something wrong. Let's try something else. Oh, the very important Duke Nukem story. I think I know what to do here. Hit skip. So, you know, it's just a third-person Duke Nukem up. Are you shooting pigs? As for how the controller feels, yeah, we're dealing with ergonomics. Oh shit, we got cover shooting. Not really working. I think... Oh, I died. I'm just gonna blame the game. So we're not here for the game. I don't care about the game. I don't care about Duke Nukem. How does the controller feel? It doesn't feel great, to be honest. It feels kind of light in the hand. Like I said, I don't like the ergonomics of the PlayStation style shape. The stick is really... It's really loose. It's like right on the edge of acceptably loose. If that makes sense. What was jump? That's not jump. That's jump. And the buttons are really round and small. I don't like the shape of the shoulder buttons either. And of course I have no use for the throttle here. I think I'm done with the game. So as much as the Saitek P750 is quite a looker and a real mystery, really shouldn't be a surprise. It's not that great to play with. There's some other strange things about it too. What the hell are these things supposed to be? It's just decoration, but why put in all the effort? And the same for these things. Are these things buttons? No, they're nothing. They're just molded into the plastic. The Saitek P750, a nice display piece. Don't play anything with it. Before we reach the top of the mountain, a little detour. This is the Saitek X633M, also released as the Radio Shack Megapad 16, presumably before 1999. I wasn't able to get one in time for this video because it's a little more rare and expensive and requires game port as well, but just look at this thing. That throttle, those turbo switches. What are these things next to the stick? Are those also axis locks? Truly, if it weren't for the next and last controller I'm going to look at, you know the one I'm talking about, I'd be really curious. But it has to forever live in the shadow of the weirdest, strangest, most bizarre thing ever to come out of the Saitek factory. From the cursed year of 1998, probably, here it is, the star of the show, the thing beyond all mortal comprehension, the Saitek Cyborg 3D Digital. There are no words in any language. Just look at this thing. Let's go through everything nice and slow so that our faces don't melt off. We'll start with the stick, which is extremely robust. It has a metal rod, if I can get the lighting in there, yeah. If I look down into the mechanics of it, I think this is essentially a shrunken down flight stick mechanism. Very robust, but also very stiff and kind of difficult to use. We have 6 face buttons labeled B1, C1, D1, and B2, C2, and D2. Not very easy to reach in any configuration unless you hold it like this, all the way up here, but you're inclined to hold it down here. We have a round mushy D-pad. What else is new? Like this little pillowy flower shape though. We have 3 toggle switches, one here, a 3 level one, and another 3 level one down here at this weird structural support thing. Before we go to the back, we have some things inside here. We have the F1 and F2 buttons for your pinky fingers. And you think, okay, we're done in the front. We're not done in the front. What's this? What's this? It's a steering wheel. It's a steering wheel around the D-pad. Yeah. Just calling in here from the editor suite, I just wanted to clarify something here. It's not a rotary encoder. It doesn't spin all the way. It just spins to, what, like 160 degrees, maybe, end to end? So it's just another throttle, really, more than anything. Then we go to the top where we find A1 and A2, these nice micro-switched paddle shoulder buttons. Underneath them, we find E2 and E1, more buttons for all of your fingers. Every single one of your fingers is being used, and then there's one last surprise. There's a throttle wheel here. Also, just, you know, just one of them. Just in case you needed it. I don't even... Okay, so we've started, but there's so much more about this that is strange. Why is the cable so strong and supported and hard? What's it for? Why does this bottom part exist? What are these for? These, we'll get to these, okay? Don't worry about these. They're not that big a deal. Look, it doesn't even lay down easily. And it's always screaming. So researching for this little guy was tough, because not only is it weird and obscure and probably sold not well, but Saitek also released a line of much more popular flight stick under the Cyborg line. After a lot of searching, I was able to find the manual on an archived driver CD-ROM. I have archived it on its own now for posterity, link in the description. But thanks to the manual, I've been able to figure out what these toggle switches are for, at least. This bottom one is for selecting the mode. This basically enables and disables certain inputs and axes for specific game types. In a way, it makes it 3 gamepads in one. You got F for fly mode, for, you know, flying. Again, flight games, seemingly Saitek's focus. It enables everything and has special features in the software, I guess, in which all buttons are configurable. Then you've got D for drive mode, driving. That's what the steering wheel thing is for. It also disables the X-axis on the joystick, so you can use it for acceleration and braking, I suppose. And then there's the most straightforward one, A for arcade mode, which disables the joystick and the steering entirely, so you can focus on using the D-pad and the face buttons for, you know, platforming and stuff. This toggle switch, F and S, is for fast and slow mode. The manual calls it fast and slow mode, but the way it describes it, fast mode allows for button programming in the software and button chording, so being able to use multiple buttons at the same time. And slow mode doesn't. And is supposedly slower. I don't know slower in what way. I'm guessing it's an awkward way to solve some kind of compatibility issues. But, you know, name a thing about this gamepad that isn't awkward. And lastly, the final toggle switch allows you to enable turbo or auto fire for this button and this button alone. There. Now you too are certified to safely operate the Saitek Cyborg 3D digital gamepad controller device thingy. Here's some pictures of the box I found on eBay. And there's 2 things of note here. One, these things on the side, these holes, are for these weird rubbery grip things. And the thing I really like is this marketing copy. At last, a pad for the adult PC gamer. The adult PC gamer. Maybe, but you'd have to be pretty creative to find a way to successfully use this in the bedroom. You know what I find really funny though? In spite of its very unique design, there is at least one modern controller that it shares some visual resemblance with. And some of you may have already realized this on your own. It's the Steam controller. Now, I kind of like the Steam controller in spite of its biggest flaw. These really ugly shoulder buttons. But that's not what we're here to discuss. The real question is whether one of these puppies was floating around the Valve offices when the Steam controller was being designed, and if anyone played through the entirety of Half-Life with it the way I played through the entirety of Half-Life with the Microsoft Sidewinder Dual Strike. Now, I am absolutely not going to play through Half-Life with this thing, partly because, womp womp, we've got another game port. So I'm just going to have to wrap up the video here and let this incredible specimen remain unplayed forever. Although, through the magic of buying 2 of them, we can play. So obviously there's a bit of a story to this. When I saw this one listed for a very low price, I snatched it up immediately because look at it. Then, in doing research for this video, I smelled the faintest whiff of evidence that they also made a USB version. And I knew that would be the easiest way to get to play on one of these. But every single listing I found of the C3DGP was the game port version. So I had to accept the possibility that the USB version was never even released, let alone in quantities high enough for me to casually find for sale online. My dear viewer, I was never gonna let this remain unplayed. I was prepared to buy multiple game port adapters, hoping that at least one of them would work and correctly translate the inputs. But even then, this seemed like the kind of controller that required complicated driver software to operate properly. Maybe my best bet would be to somehow acquire an old PC or maybe even a laptop with a game port so I could take a proper look. I was willing to do this, spend all the money I have, very little, take all the time I have free, practically nothing, and delay this video that's intended to be something quick and easy to produce in between deep dives of weird obscure games. But then, very randomly, while shopping for something else entirely, I saw this USB version for sale. And though I paid as much in shipping for it as I did for the thing itself, it is now mine, and we can compare the differences and actually play games with it. So the first thing you'll notice is, hey, this one comes with one of the rubber grips. Just one of them, because I imagine they get lost very easily. And I still don't understand what it's for. It pushes your hand up even higher. I guess you can reach these more easily, but then, there's no real contorting going on at all, other than maybe my wrists, but nothing about this is comfortable, as you would imagine. The ergonomics of this are maybe not made for human hands. The other difference is also quite notable. 2 toggle switches are missing, replaced by little plastic plugs. Presumably, this one being USB. Look, it's no longer digital, it's just USB. It used different software or didn't require the programming software anymore. Who can tell? One other difference, there's a tiny little mark there. This baby got played. This wasn't just in a closet somewhere. Somebody used this and then put it in a closet somewhere. And there's one more thing, which is a little bit of a downer. The steering wheel on this one, it's not as springy as I want it to be. It gets stuck if I put it all the way. I tried opening it up to see if I could repair it or loosen it somehow. You got the obvious screws or bolts basically here, and you got a couple more in the back. I even had to cut through the label. The problem is it doesn't really come apart very easily. There's like half a dozen little PCBs in here for all these buttons, and all the wires are soldered in, so the 2 halves of the shell can't really be released from each other more than like a centimeter to take a closer look inside. I don't even understand how it was put together in the first place, which is just another one of the many questions this thing evokes. Anyway, since it's not really broken, I decided to just leave it as is. So we're definitely going to play some stuff with it. I have a flying game, a driving game, and an action game lined up. But one thing that I've discovered in setting this thing up, and maybe I can even show it to you. So I've got it plugged into the gamepad tester. You can see all the buttons are working, all the axes are working, if not particularly well calibrated. But if I hit C2, you see B9 registers. If I hit D1, B9 registers. If I hit C1, B8, and D2, also B8. So this pair of buttons and this pair of buttons are wired together, and they're essentially the same input, meaning you lose 2 buttons, really, which was very frustrating while I was trying to bind these controls to the games I'm going to show off. I don't know if that's a mistake or by design, or what the purpose of that is, and that's true for everything about this thing. This is for Saitek, not the recently released remake, but the Project X fan source port, I guess is what you would call it. I have the throttle set to go forward and backwards. I have the wheel set to go up and down, and then the stick to do the rest. I've never played this game. I don't know if this is how you're supposed to control it. I've already rotated in a way that is inconvenient for me. This is one of those controllers that just takes a whole lot getting used to. Oh God. Is it possible, is the question, is it possible at all to live? My question is it possible to play this with this controller in a way that actually works? To bind the controls, you need to understand the game. You need to do a whole lot of translating work. You need a supercomputer to figure it out. Let's try again. Shield, okay. I'm wondering if I should have just chosen a more conventional flight simulator, maybe? What's going on now? Where's the baddies? Oh God, don't look if you easily get sick. Nothing spawning. Well, okay, this gives me time to just fly around. This is okay. I'm gonna get sick, so I think I've shown off enough. You get the point, right? This is not a great experience. This is Apekist. It's basically indie downhill Trackmania. Now, I haven't played in a while, so a lot of the single-player adventure maps are have been changed or are new or are locked. So, but I set the steering to steering, and there's basically just brake and balancing, I believe, and that's all there is to it. And I gotta tell you, in a game where you need to use your reflexes, having a stiff, crunchy little steering wheel input is not the greatest. But I seem to be doing all right so far. What? Why is the horn honking? What's going on? Why? Which one is Y? To tell me which of these buttons did I set to Y? This one? Yeah. And this is A. Okay, let's try this one more time. We can make it to the end. What's brake? Shit. What did I set to brake? B. Why is the horn honking? Oh, you know what's happening? I keep hitting these buttons accidentally, or at least this one. It's just because your hand is resting there. It's like this middle part of the finger is resting there, and it just keeps hitting the button when I'm feeling tight and I'm grabbing it. All right, this will be the one. I'm probably not going to get a medal. Brake. The fact that the wheel gets stuck is not particularly helpful in this moment. Okay, this will be the one. Shit, I hit restart accidentally. This will be the one. Oh, nice recovery. This steering wheel idea is terrible. It's terrible. And I still don't know what brake is. What's brake? B. B's brake. No drifting, please. No drifting. Oh, nice recovery. Brake. Not too much. Shit. Oh, we're okay. Do we have enough speed? Oh, God. Okay, this will be the one. Why did I choose such a long track to demo this? Lost a wheel. Okay, this will be the one. Oh, shh. We're okay, we're safe. Oh, we lost speed. The thing about Apekist is there's no accelerator, right? It's all downhill, it's all gravity powered. So if I can't make it to the finish, oh, it's so close. I did it. I am a golden god. Yay. So that's what it's like driving with this thing. Never again, please. I got a bronze medal though. And finally, for a little bit of old school platforming action, DuckTales. So you'd think it'd be easier because it's just a couple of buttons. Oh god. I bound E2, this one, to start. So accidentally pressing it, because that's where my finger rests, is gonna lead to a lot of confusion. So D2 is jump, or C1, I guess. And this is pogo, but that's not gonna be useful if I'm using the D-pad. Okay, that's is that my fault that I decided to put start on E2 just because I wanted a start button? Easier to just continue pogoing, I guess. Look, The regular face button layout of like a little diamond of round buttons, it exists for a reason, I think. Okay, I can skip cinematic at least. It's also not comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's just not comfortable. Look, there's some things about this that are just age, right? Like the stick being stiff, the wheel not working right. That's just age. It's probably better without this thing, because this thing just makes your hand flex even more like this. But even so, this is not... Nothing about this makes sense. It is an absurd creation. I love it. I never want to play anything with it again. So that was another adventure down the weird controller river. Bit of a rapids section, very treacherous. This one's not that weird. This one's a little wacky. This is a pure freakazoid. And these babies. Look, I've been doing a lot of research for these videos. I've acquired loads of these controllers now. There are more coming up, I promise. But I also feel reasonably secure in promising that nothing that I own or have my eyes on right now will top the Cyborg 3D Digital. Every decision that led to its creation is baffling. There isn't a single thing about it that is normal. Not a single thing. It feels like it fell out of an alternate universe where Earth's history went very differently. I love it. I love that I have two of them. I hope one day to have a space where I can hang them on the wall and display them as the bizarre pieces of outsider art that they are. That way I can appreciate them and never actually have to play anything on them. Unless this video gets 100,000 views, in which case I will stream myself playing through the entirety of Forsaken with it.